So the question was if the commissioners have questions about
All right.
the grant application.
Very well.
How do we
I'll call the meeting to order. It's Nevada Commission on Off-Highway Vehicles. It's our June 5th meeting. It's 9:12 in the morning. I will call the roll. Commissioner Cox.
Present.
Commissioner Elmore.
Here.
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Giroux.
Here.
Commissioner Griggs. Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Lambert. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Richardson. Commissioner McKay. We have a quorum. Very well. Pledge of Allegiance. Could we rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance? Sharice, would you be kind enough to lead us?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. Item number 4 is public comment. Do we have any public comment in Las Vegas?
no public.
Okay. Do we have any public comment in Carson City? Very well. Hearing none, and there'll be an opportunity at the end if someone comes in later. Item number 5, commissioner briefings. These are non-action items. Commissioners may brief the commission on any emerging issues of interest to the commission arising after the agenda is set. No deliberation or action will be taken on any information presented until a matter itself has been specifically included on an agenda as an item upon which actions may be taken. Are there any commissioner briefings that people want to put in? Yes, Commissioner Baker.
I just wanted to let you know that, remember the survey that we have linked that the County Desert Conservation Program initiated? They got they finalized that, and they walked into my office a couple days ago, the summary, and it's one of the brochures is just a quick recap summary, and then the full survey. And the gal said she'd be more than happy to come to a future meeting if we wanted her to present it. But it was pretty good information with regard to what the people want, where they go. It was only for Clark County, but I was sharing with Charlie for the county. One of the cool things was what things are you looking for improvement, so we would know what grants would accommodate their needs. And they just said increased signage, mapping, better restrooms, and more trash receptacles. And they said that if the county developed a website for off-highway vehicle users, they would utilize it. So that's just a snapshot of some of the stuff. It was pretty cool. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And the other thing I did, just for fun, was put together this little matrix, and I can send it out to everybody, but it took a look at every county within the state, what their population was, and then what their square mileage coverage was. Just because there might be a smaller population, there may be a lot of trails within that community that adjacent counties four-wheel in. And then just in comparison with the registration. So it was just an interesting scenario to look at everything, the whole picture. So I'll send that out to you guys. I just did that yesterday afternoon. But for the law enforcement grants, it was interesting to note that Elko County has 2% of the state's population, but almost 15% of the state's total square mileage. That nobody applied for a grant for law enforcement from Elko County. So I thought that was interesting. And they had almost 100% of registrations throughout the state. It's just good, statistical information. So I just want to share that with you guys.
And also make sure it's posted on the website so that the public can see it as well.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Sue. Well, maybe we'll get both of those posted on our website and have them for future discussion items for the commission. that be suitable?
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks very much. Any other commissioner briefings? I have a couple. We're going to schedule some ethics training with the state in the near future here. And another development that we can't act on or discuss today is with my conversations with our Deputy Attorney General, we learned there's a possibility that we can dispense of some of our funds by direct competitive bidding by contractors versus grants. It's an option we have to explore to make sure how it may or may not work, but it might have some advantages to the grant process in certain areas. We'll just have to explore it further, and we'll have it on a future commission meeting for discussion very soon. Very well. Any other commissioner briefings? Very good. All right. And we'll go to item number 6, which is meeting minutes for discussion and possible action. The commissioners may vote to approve, modify, or reject the minutes from the commission meeting held on April 30th, 2015. And there was one correction there when we were talking about the state agency. She couldn't, interpret whether I said conversion or conversation, and it was that we were going to continue the conversation. So, are there any other changes to the minutes that were noticed by the commission? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
This is Commissioner Elmore. I reviewed the minutes last night. I didn't see anything that I thought was out of line, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Giroux, I'll second that.
Very good. Any further discussion? Very well. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Very well. Item number 7. Public workshop for discussion and possible action. The commission will hold a public workshop to solicit public comment on the draft regulations returned from the Legislative Council Bureau to the commission on April 28th, 2015. The draft regulations have been posted on the commission website since April 28th, 2015, and the notice of public workshop was mailed, emailed, and faxed to all the required and interested parties on May 12th of 2015. The commission will hear all oral and written comments on the draft regulations by the public, and commissioners will incorporate them in our notice to intent to adopt regulation hearing on June 15th, 2015, which was also properly noticed on May 12th, 2015. There are copies of the notice of the workshop. There's copies of the regulation on the desk. There's copies of our, where's our blank? Our economic impact statement. But I'll basically read a little bit as far as the content of the notice of the workshop, and we'll get into a brief description of the regulations and see if there's any public comment. So our notice of workshop to solicit comments on the proposed regulation that we're proposing the adoption of regulations pertaining to Chapter 490 of the Nevada Administrative Code. Workshop has been set today for 9 a.m. at the Nevada Public Utilities Commission at their locations in Carson City and Las Vegas. There's also a phone-in telephone number and a meeting ID for any interested parties wishing to make comment. The purpose of the workshop is to solicit comments from interested persons on the following general topics that may be addressed in the proposed regulations. The regulations will deal with grant applications, the awarding of grants, and administration of funds for awarded grants. And all that material was available, as stated before. There were written comments accepted up until 5 p.m. yesterday at our mailbox, and we received none. And there was an extensive list to solicit comments on the proposed regulations that have been sent to all persons on the agency's mailing list for administrative regulations and posted at the following locations. Raylene, if you want to add anything to this, feel free to chime in. I was going to give a brief description of the sections of the proposed regulations, and if there are any questions by the public or commissioners, they can speak up whenever they wish.
The only thing that I would add is just to make sure that you have a clear list of anybody who does speak and what it is that they say, and that you have contact information for those individuals.
We do that. Thank you very much. So if anyone wishes to make a comment, please register over on the sign-in sheet, or you can say it before your comments, name, address, phone number, all your contact information.
Well, they don't have to put their name, address, and phone number on the record. Just make sure that you have it in writing somewhere.
Okay.
I mean, they should give you their name, of course, but
Okay.
the confidential information they don't have to orally present.
Very well. So our proposed regulations, it's a regulation that relates to motor vehicles, establishing a program for the awarding of grants for projects concerning off-highway vehicles and related trails and facilities, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. Existing statutory law directs the Commission on Off-Highway Vehicles to adopt regulations setting forth, 1, who may apply for a grant of money from the account on off-highway vehicles. Number 2, procedures for awarding grants of money from the account. Number 3, the manner in which applications for grants are to be submitted to the Commission. Number 4, an applicant for such a grant of money must provide information satisfactory to the Commission that the applicant has consulted the requisite state, local, and federal government entities. And 5, the acceptable performance of work on a project for which the grant is awarded. NRS 490.068 sets acceptable, the regulation carries out the statutory directive by creating a system for awarding grants and monitoring grantees in accordance with the requirements of NRS 490.068 and 490.069. Section 2 to 14 of this regulation provides definitions that are applicable to the awarding of grants of money from the account of off-highway vehicles. Sections 15 to 19 of this regulation sets forth the provisions with which a person must comply to qualify to apply to the Commission for a grant of money from the account. Sections 21 to 23 of this regulation specify the information that must be included within and which must accompany an application requesting a grant of money from the account. Section 20 of this regulation provides for the Commission to appoint a grant scoring committee to score the grant applications that are submitted. Sections 20 to 25 of this regulation specify what must be contained in a request for grant applications that is issued by the Commission. Sections 25 to 34 of this regulation set forth the manner of which applications for grants of money from the account will be requested, publicized, evaluated, and approved or rejected. Sections 35 to 41 of this regulation establish the manner in which the Commission will monitor and evaluate projects that are paid for in whole or in part by grant money that is dispersed from the account. So having to give a general description of the provisions in this, and I'm sure the commissioners have looked at this, we basically began this process July of 2014. We submitted our draft regulations to the Legislative Council Bureau in mid-July. We got those draft regulations back from Legislative Council Bureau in the end of November. We reviewed them in January, sent them back, and those regulations had extensive input from our Deputy Attorney General in the Office of Grants. And basically those revisions were accepted virtually in total. Raylene can tell you that I think there's 2 exceptions that gave the Commission a little more leeway in the time period that they were required to review and return to the Office of Grants were accepted in total. And the regulations have been on our website since the end of April. This will be our second workshop on these. So having said that, are there any public comments on our draft regulation? Any in Carson City? Hearing none. Are there any in Las Vegas? Hearing none in Las Vegas. Raylene, would you like to make any additional comments of anything I missed or may have overlooked or need to point out?
Greg, what about the telephone? Are there any members of the public on the telephone?
Gary, you on there? Or anyone on our telephone that would like to make a comment on the workshop?
Do we know that the line's working?
Yeah, actually, Gary just said turn up the volume on it, so I believe it is, but I think he might be in and out a little bit driving back from Elko.
Do
Go
any
ahead.
commissioners have any questions or anything that they want to talk about it?
I guess we have a comfort level with it.
That everybody understands the time frames for when things will be done and how they'll be done.
Do we
I
need
heard
a
somebody
motion
before-
to close the item?
We will in just a second. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I heard somebody had a question about the selection of the scoring committee.
Oh, yes, Karen did.
And so the way that will work is the commission will vote on who will be part of the scoring committee, and it's up to the commission to determine that, whether it'll be all the commissioners, some of the commissioners, some non-voting advisors, all of the non-voting advisors, or a combination of both. That's how it'll work.
Can I ask you a question?
Darren, Commissioner Elmore.
Really, can you give us an update on where we're at with trying to garner more support from these non-voting advisors who haven't participated?
Yes, we actually, the chairman and I discussed that the other day, that I think that it will be very important for the commission to reach out to those individuals and let them know that through this regulation, what their participation is expected to be, and not just through the regulation, but the statute itself imposes a duty on them, and to make sure that the individuals are still willing to participate, because if not, then the commission is the one who is selecting the non-voting advisors, that you may want to reach out to someone else that fits within the descriptions by the statute of those individuals, and make sure that you have people that will be participating in the process, because the statute contemplates that.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that this Commissioner Elmer, for the record, my concern is that we've already reached out to him once, if not twice, and we don't seem to be garnering any attention. So I guess I'm curious, is that letter going to be co-signed by your office, or is there going to be an accompanying letter that puts a little more teeth into it to either make them decide whether they're going to participate or not?
Well, I think that what you'd want to do is say that they would want to be aware of the regulation and what the regulation shows their involvement. You might want to highlight what their involvement is expected to be, and then you're going to actually ask them if they are still willing to participate, or whether you should select somebody else to fill their position, because the statute and the regulation contemplates their participation. If they don't want to participate, then you'll look elsewhere, so that you'll be asking them for an affirmative response on their willingness to be involved.
Okay, I guess if I remember correctly, that's what we did in the first, if not second, letter that we sent out. I know the first one was early on in this process after the commission was formed, and I think we sent one last year as well. But I may be mistaken. I'm just curious as to what's going to be different about this one than the last one that we sent that was probably circular filed pretty quickly.
Do you know I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Was that letter asking for an affirmative response from them, or was it? I haven't seen the letter, so I don't know what the content was. Was it just met with silence, or do you know what the result of that was?
It was met with silence because we have the same level of participation from the non-voting advisors that we had from before. So I don't think that we got. Well, I'm not aware that we got any sort of response. But I think we should try and dig up a copy of the previous letter, if not letters, and make sure that the next one that we send is different.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it can be done with a telephone call too, and just talking to somebody. I mean, the idea is just trying to find out. We want to make sure that we have active participants, and it's not a matter of anybody fronting you for lack of participation in the past. We just need to know what's going to happen going forward, and if you're going to be there. If not, we want to make sure that we get somebody who is going to be there and who wants to be there. I think that will be the idea behind it, and that it should happen sooner than later. And perhaps we've got another meeting coming up very shortly. Maybe put an agenda item there so that the commission can fully discuss exactly how you want to go about getting those members involved or filled in the event that you find out there's a lot of them that don't want to participate or aren't able to participate.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions, concerns?
This is Commissioner Lee.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lee.
I don't know if it would be proper, but right along with what Commissioner Elmore was saying, I agree. We've reached out to these, and I don't know if silence means that we need to move on. Would it be proper to divide that list up amongst commission members and have us personally make a phone call to that entity or whatever, instead of it being a letter? Maybe a phone call would garner more support, because if you assign me to whatever one of those, I'd be more than happy to make a phone call and talk to them. For example, Department of Wildlife, I think, is one of those. I'm more than willing. I know I know some of their people really well, and maybe we could, personally talk to them and get them to understand the importance of it. I don't know if that would be proper or if that would even work, but just a suggestion.
Yeah, and that's why I think we should put it on the agenda for the next time, so that you can develop a plan of exactly how you want to attack it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and for the record, wildlife's been well represented in Carson City here for probably the past 4 or 5 months anyway. But yeah, let Raylene and I will work on getting a letter and some other stuff. We'll agendize it to discuss next meeting. I think we can improve our participation in the process. So, any other comments or concerns? Very well. With that, I will close the public workshop at 09:35. Well, number 8. A presentation from the Office of Criminal Justice Assistance for discussion and possible action. The Commission will receive information on the recommendations being made by the Nevada Office of Criminal Justice Assistance towards dispersing 20% of the Commission account funds for law enforcement purposes pursuant to NRS 490.069. There will also be a discussion on the next steps the Commission, the Office of Criminal Justice, Nevada Office of Grant Procurement, Coordination, and Management Office will make. The Commission may move on recommendations of the Nevada Office of Criminal Justice and fund the 2014 and 2015 law enforcement awards. And I'd like to introduce Cherise Witt, familiar to us that are regular attendees. And Nathan Hastings is her Deputy Attorney General representation. So if you want, Cherise, go ahead and take it away.
Cherise Witt, for the record. Good morning. The Office of Criminal Justice Assistance opened a solicitation for the request of funding applications on March 2nd of this year. We sent out email notifications, postcards, and from our office and also from the state grant office went out. We did not send them to every law enforcement agency, such as the school district police, legislative police, airport authorities, that sort. But all of the police departments and sheriff's departments, sheriff's offices received items. We also took the list from the previous year's applicants, law enforcement agency applicants, and notified them. It was posted on our website. The applications were due April 10th. And we were told at the time that the commission had approximately $200,000 available for the law enforcement agency, so that's what we posted in our solicitation. We received 9 funding applications.
Very good.
Yes, for about $216,000. We are recommending that all 9 applications be awarded in some fashion, whether it's full or partial amounts. And I'll go through the list in a little bit if you'd like. We are recommending that all projects be required to submit a progress report to the commission with several minimum data requirements. And that's to allow the commission to evaluate the agencies and the projects to make sure they're doing what you want them to do and what they stated they would do in their applications. You can use those considerations for future funding. I have a list on the recommendations that you can follow if you'd like, but basically they're the number of contacts made regarding OHV registrations, number of citations made, number of instances the agencies provided education on OHV laws and safety, number of hours equipment was used or overtime or salaries hours were utilized, number of service calls received, and then a summary as such. They should provide enough information that the commission is able to determine if the project is being effective or not. And as most of the law enforcement agencies stated that they would be using the time and equipment for tasks other than just law enforcement related activities, you may wish to consider asking for some additional information as to what those other activities include. Are they for illegal dumps? Are they for drug-related activities, destruction of lands, target shootings, that sort of thing? Many of the applicants discuss these other activities, so that you may want to consider tracking those if that's important to you. We would also recommend that you designate or have the agencies designate a person from their agency to review and evaluate the program. That was part of the solicitation, although most of the agencies did not address that. And I think it's important for you to know that there's someone in charge of evaluating that on a consistent basis. Most of the applicants requested equipment and supplies. The Department of Wildlife and Douglas County Sheriff's Office requested salary and overtime. On both of these applications, we felt that they didn't have quite enough backup or justification for the amount of hours they were asking for. I think that's probably just because they didn't have the baseline. Our suggestion was that you fund both of those in part, about 50% of what they're asking, and require them to report on how many hours they're using, what they're using them for, and then you can make an evaluation for future funding, and they will have the baseline to show you that they really have the need. We could understand what they were trying to do with the application, and we do feel that it is a positive activity for them. The Humboldt County Sheriff's Office provided a proposal which incorporated several different facets. They gave very good justifications for their need and what they want to do. They addressed the enforcement activities very strongly compared to the other agencies. They also have the education project within the activities. And I just wanted to point that out. I think their application can be used as an example maybe in future years as to how to get the solicitation written correctly. As the funding for fiscal year 2014 and 15 is available, we're recommending that the standard awarding practices should be followed, where you start with the 2014 funds, going down the scoring, highest scoring applicants, fund them first, and once the 14 funds are exhausted, then start using the 15 funds until those are exhausted. In this case, you actually had the $267,000, which was more than the $200 we were originally told. So you are going to have those unobligated funds available. And again, we recommend that you go by the standard awarding practices, which would be to forward that unobligated amount to the next year to be able to use that for funding. I have given the electronic versions submitted of the applications to the chairman, along with the original applications in 2 copies, so the commissioners can look through those if you need to. When we were scoring and reviewing, we took into consideration the things I've heard here at the commission as to what's important to you, what's required for enforcement. And as we've worked with all of these agencies in the past with other grants, we use their historical performance as well. There is a listing with the attributes and deficiencies of each application, the scores, and the amount we are recommending. And I believe these were sent out to the commissioners ahead of time, weren't they, Chairman?
This list was only a few days ahead of time.
Okay.
But I think we can walk through them if they desire, or...
Okay. I can either go through each one, or if anyone has any specific questions.
What's the commission's desire? Do you want a brief synopsis of each grant application amount, what they want to use it for, or do you want to accept this report as given?
Commissioner Jackson.
Mr. Jackson?
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, this seems to be pretty thorough, and I've read through these, and it seems to be, this little brief that we've been given is actually a very good brief. And then, given the experience of the department that's doing this, I kind of feel that there's really not a lot of point in belaboring it and going through it again and again. I think you made some excellent points, and obviously the experience and understand this, and giving your recommendations, including only paying half the fee to some because of trying to create the baseline and all that kind of good stuff. I feel we should just go ahead and accept it. So I would make a motion to accept the report and move forward with it.
Very well. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Gary Lambert, the record, I'll second it.
All right. I think Sue beat you out by just a bit there, but
It's fine.
thank you, Gary.
Discussion.
Further discussion.
Commissioner Baker.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Commissioner Baker.
I was just wondering what the other commissioners feel about fully funding the other 2 with maybe some conditions attached to it, instead of not funding and telling them next time this is what we're looking for. Maybe just to say we will fully fund it, but like as the example for NDOW, doesn't explain how the salary and overtime will be allocated. So we could say we want to make sure that we will fund it fully, but we want to make sure that the salary and overtime is allocated towards enforcement and education, and maybe put a little bit more emphasis on the education. Maybe the same thing with Douglas County, with the clarification, we don't want the funding to go towards the, I think, was that the one where they were going to cover benefits as well, and we didn't want it to be benefits. But that we would want it to be funded with, the funding was the intention for enforcement as well as maybe education. And if we just emphasize that, just because we have the extra revenue, and my thoughts are because we have the extra revenue to give out, because they've asked for it and showed the interest in it, and because at the legislative session was like, get those monies out there. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Sue. Commissioner Elmore?
This is Commissioner Elmore. I guess I have a question, and maybe our dealer representative can answer this. I'm just looking at a couple of these amounts requested for equipment. 30 grand for Mineral County, 28 grand for a razor, 1,000. I don't know. Does that seem like it's high, low? You should know, Michael, what these machines cost. It seems slightly high to me, just being somewhat familiar with it. And then the other one that caught my eye was the Lyon County is 26.5 grand for an XP 900, which I think it retails 15, 17 grand. Some accessories, trailer. Okay, so that's 4 or 5 grand. I'm just curious. That one caught my eyes being high. And then White Pine County, 24 grand for an enclosed trailer. Also seems high to me. I'm not saying I'm in the trailer sales business, but I just was curious as to what your opinion was on those.
Commissioner Giroux, for the record, I did look at that, and it does seem high. It's hard because there's no itemization.
Right.
So, like on the Mesquite, a Razor 4900, it just says with police equipment package, which...
The breakdowns are in the application,
Oh, okay.
so you have those available to look at. And this is Cherie Sweat, and we did do some quotes and researching. Several of the agencies submitted quotes with the application, some did not, so we did some research on our own. Some are right in line. There were a few that we felt were a little bit expensive. When you tag on some of the goodies, it seemed like it could probably fit, maybe still a little bit high. The enclosed trailer, we discussed at first, we had a little bit of a problem with that. In reading in the application, they're using it for more than just hauling the ATVs. They want to utilize it for taking to fairs and public events and doing training and education out of it as well. So it's a little bit bigger than what you may normally see an ATV trailer being, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Commissioner Giroux, for the record, yeah, $24,000 for an enclosed trailer to haul 2 OHVs. I mean, you could easily get that exact, a trailer. You're talking in the $5,000-6,000 range easily.
Right.
So,
and that's when we started looking at what they wanted to use it for, more than just the hauling of trailers, for the educational piece. And actually, they had talked about actually having training out of it.
okay. And again, Commissioner Giroux, for the record, I just want to see our money get spent as wisely as it can. I mean, I'm looking at Washoe County. They want 2 on-off-road machines. They picked the absolute most expensive bike that you could get for that. I mean, there's other options. They could get 4 to 5 machines that would be adequate. But again, I don't know if it's the commission's position to actually tell them what, how to spend the money that we're allocating. So,
Commissioner Jackson?
Commissioner Jackson, all these things are going out to, curious, are all these things going out to competitive bid?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. And my second question would be that on all of these machines, trailers, and other equipment, is there a sign on there that says paid for by
This is Cherie Sweat, and that's a requirement you can make when you do the award. You can have that as one of your requirements. a special condition for that.
That's required.
Chair, I would like to withdraw my motion and ask if we could reevaluate these and maybe set up a small committee to reevaluate these and bring them back to the June 15th meeting with that small committee's recommendations, so that we can go through these one by one, and the committee could work with you, Charisse, if that would be okay, and just go through any concerns and handle any concerns, and on the 15th, just go ahead and do it.
All right.
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
Oh, I guess I just need to understand how the funds are going to be dispersed. Are we going to give a lump sum of money to the Office of Criminal Justice and then they disperse it, or are we just going to write checks based on receipts that we get for this equipment?
Actually, the process is the Office of Grants, Procurement, and Coordination will process the applications and invoices, and they will tell the treasurer to where to write the checks. That's how
But the check will be written for an actual invoice. So in the case of White Pine County for $24,000, if the trailer only costs $19,000, that's what the check will be written for.
Could very well turn out that way.
Well, you're making the disbursements based on the recommendation of the Office of Criminal Justice. So once you make a final determination, and it sounds like maybe the commission wants to work a little bit more with the Office of Criminal Justice Assistance, but their recommendation is what you must act upon.
Okay.
So you can work with them and tell them your concerns, and maybe you can work with the agency and fine-tune this a little bit, but you will ultimately be doing what they ask you to do.
Very good. Commissioner Elmore?
This is Commissioner Elmore. The purpose of my question wasn't to slow the process down or that. If White Pine County needs a trailer that's 24 grand, they're going to use it, and we can get half of it wrapped with OHV program decal. That's going to be extremely beneficial to the program to show that we got money on the ground. I'm all for it. If they need more to do more of that, we can certainly discuss that down the road. But I put a lot of faith in what Charisse has done. Sounds like she's asked some intelligent questions, which doesn't surprise me. And this is what they do. So I have a lot of faith that these numbers are prudent and can be justified. So I'm very comfortable with it. I do think that we need to be smart about any stipulations that we would ask, so that we can make sure, as the commission and the program, we get the best bang for our buck in some free promotion for these funds. And I just need to know what the best way to do that is. Whether it's a motion that includes stipulations, or whether we can just make a list and hand that off. I guess I'm curious as to what we need to do.
I think we could probably, if the commission would agree, we could have a motion to accept the recommendation of the Office of Criminal Justice, and we will assign a committee to put some conditions as far as the purchasing, competitive bids. I'd like to see a preference to buy from a Nevada dealer versus an out-of-state dealer. But review their documentation and come back with some conditions as far as the actual equipment purchase, so it's done in the most responsible manner. Yes, Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson, to you, Chair, if we're going to accept it as is, then we have to accept it as is. If we're going to go to a committee, then we basically say we're going to take it to a committee and then accept it. So it's going to be one or the other.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments?
Commissioner Drew.
Go ahead, Commissioner Drew.
Again, I guess I just want to emphasize on some of these. It would. I guess I also don't want to have the public looking at these purchases and, basically, did they buy the Mercedes or they could have bought a Toyota? And, with money being, a forefront, you don't want to have it represented that they're taking our money and just squandering it. And I think on some of this, some of the equipment they picked is, it's real high-line stuff. I think they could do with so much. Just knowing what I know, you know, you could either spread it around and get a lot more machines, or have less money spent and still be able to adequately, you know, do what they, you know, and it's almost every single one of these where they actually, you know, has specific machines.
Then you should be on the committee.
Well, I would,
right.
you know.
You have just volunteered yourself.
Yeah, I want it to be right, and I want people to not, you know, have a bad taste right out of it, you know, on our first go.
Yeah.
So, and I know from my experience, what I'm seeing some people pull up on some of this stuff would be, you know, maybe not the smartest thing, but.
Very good. Thank you. Raylene, Chairman McKay for the record, would it be okay that we have a committee that reviews these equipment purchases and reports back to the commission next meeting? And can that be a condition of the acceptance of the recommendation from the Office of Criminal Justice?
Well, I think that, you know, I would throw this back on Sharice's office and her counsel. Their recommendation is their recommendation. They've heard your comments now. Do they think that those comments warrant reconsideration of the recommendation? Are they comfortable with the recommendation as it is? Would they like to further develop what the recommendation should be? It's their recommendation. The commission is tasked with awarding money pursuant to the recommendation of the OCJA. So,
okay,
it's on them.
All right. Sharice, Nathan, do you want to offer any opinion to that?
Well, this is Nathan Hastings, Deputy AG for the record. Sharice and I could have a discussion, perhaps not in this open meeting, about whether or not she has any inclination, and her office has any inclination to look at these again and amend them. But I would say that once a recommendation, a final recommendation is made by the OCJA, whether it's these exactly as they are right now or slightly amended, the matter is then out of the OCJA's hands. The OCJA is not going to be the entity that makes any determination about what the OHV can or cannot do in terms of whether you want to change things. That, to use Raylene's phrase, I think that she just used, I'll throw right back onto you guys. If there's a question of what the OHV can do with the recommendations that OCJA has made, OCJA and its counsel will not say a word about that.
Well, the question is whether or not this is your final recommendation, or if you want to consider the information provided by the commissioners and render a final recommendation at a later time. That's the question. If you're done now and there's not going to be any consideration of the commissioners' concerns, then yes, they need to act.
No, I understand that, and all I'm trying to say is that the OHV's ability to address this and to make disbursements or to make decisions about disbursements based on these recommendations, the degree to which the OHV can or can't change things, that's not going to be a question that OCJA will answer.
Mr. Jackson?
And that's not the question. The question is whether or not your recommendation is final, or whether or not you are open to considering the comments of the commissioners before making your recommendation final.
Commissioner Jackson for the record. I think the recommendation has been made. We can, as commission, choose to accept them or not accept them. I think we can sidestep this whole issue by simply having our own committee. Our committee reports back to the commission on the 15th, and then the commission decides whether or not they're going to accept those recommendations of the committee.
Mr. Jackson, I respectfully disagree with your conclusion. It says shall. the Nevada Commission for Off-Highway Vehicles, the money must be used for law enforcement as recommended by the Office of Criminal Justice Assistance. I don't think it's for the commission to decide. You can disagree with my opinion, but that is my opinion.
I stand corrected. Sorry.
Commissioner Elmore?
This is Commissioner Elmore. Our questions and I guess our concerns, the Commission's voice concerns, pertain to just the equipment purchases. So the two that are asking for overtime are, I guess, getting lumped in here. Do we have to act on this as in a whole list, or can we do it partially? They're these other that are asking for overtime, these other awards that are asking for overtime, et cetera, are kind of being casualty of the crossfire. And I guess my question is, can we fund those partially and then do the rest of the list later, or?
Chairman McKay, this is Bree Switt. Can we take just a couple minute break?
I think that might be a good use of time.
We might have
Take 5 minutes
a
and
solution.
discuss a couple things. Sure, go ahead. I believe we'll take a 5-minute recess and see if we can have a potential solution here.
Can we knock off a couple of the other smaller items while they're doing that?
We could.
Yeah, I mean, like the treasury report, can we just get those knocked off?
Sure.
Well, can we stop an agenda item and then come back to
She
it?
said, did the research, and this is a little high.
All right, commissioners, we're just going to suspend our discussion on item 8 for a second. We'll do a couple more housekeeping measures, and when they come back, we'll jump back into it. I think we could do a treasurer's report pretty quickly here.
Wait a minute. Are you going to take a break or not?
I think
You're not taking a break?
I think we'll not take a break. We'll just suspend the discussion on item 8 for a second and allow Sharice and Nathan to possibly come up with a solution. And we can take care of a couple other housekeeping measures. That pleases the commission.
I didn't know if they needed me involved in anything.
It'd be hard for you to step out in the hallway.
Well, if you're continuing with business, though, then I should be here for this.
Absolutely.
But if they don't need me, they don't need me.
Okay. Our April Treasurer's Report has been on the site, and I've got a copy in this stack somewhere here. I'll grab it.
I didn't want to throw a big wrench in it. It just
That's what I saw it.
Our April account activity, the beginning balance was $1,141,476.50. There's one credit on the 20th of April for $28,322 for a total of $1,169,798.50. Expenses, we had $1,131 for Kim's hours in March, $100.71 for copies, postage, etc. Kim's hours for April were $1,812.50, and copies and postage was $140. Total debits for April was $3,184.41 for an ending balance of $1,166,614.09. And I just took our May balance off the account yesterday. The beginning balance was $1,166,614.09. We had two credits on the 1st of May, $25,874. On the 13th of May, $25,925 for a total of $51,799. Expenses, we had Kim for $1,218, supplies of $169.02, and $2,500 for Capital Partners, our lobbyist, for an ending balance of $1,214,526.07.
I have a question, Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Paul Jackson for the record. How close are we on our 5% expenses?
We're actually doing very well. We're in, I think, in June, we're hovering somewhere between 2 and 3%.
All right, terrific. So then we should have a meeting in Vegas. Paul Jackson, for the record, in all honesty, I mean, it is good for us as a commission to all meet face to face at least once a year.
Yeah.
And that was one of the intentions that when we started, was that we would do that. So, being that we're not in a financial bind, I think it may be appropriate for us to have a meeting. It doesn't matter whether it's up here or down there, but a meeting where we can all meet face to face.
Yeah, I'm sure when it comes to that grant award meeting, I think we all need to be in the same room.
Maybe in
Yeah.
July or something.
Yeah. Very well. Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Commissioner Jackson, motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Okay. Very well. Why don't we do DMV?
We need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Elmore will second.
Very good. Sorry, getting a little ahead of myself there. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Very good. Treasurer's report is done. Why don't we do number 13, presentation from the DMV. Want to come up or sit on the side? What's your pleasure, Doreen?
He's coming back. Better
all right.
sit there.
All right. For the record, we go back to our item 8. Is there, after a little discussion, do you think you might have a potential additional information that may help our quandary here?
Just for the record, Cherie Switt. And understanding the questions and concerns the commission has, OCJA would be willing to meet with a subcommittee to review those questions and go through whatever you would like to discuss. In the essence of getting the awards out and funding out like you would like to, I'd like to request that we do that sooner than later.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I would like to make a motion that the chair form a subcommittee of no more than 3 people, which would meet and bring to the commission its recommendations on or before the June 15th meeting.
Very good.
You won't be able to do that, I don't think, because you have to comply with the open meeting law on any subcommittee meeting. So perhaps you could. You have to allow 3 days for an agenda, have that meeting, and then, so if you acted very quickly, perhaps you could do that.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, if I am given the honor of being on that committee, I would make sure that that committee has the agenda and posting done in time to be able to do that.
All right. We have a motion.
Is there a second?
Is there a second?
Commissioner Giroux, I'll second that.
Very good. Any further discussion? And then I'll just call for a vote, and then we can do a little appointment right afterwards.
Right.
So, all those in favor say aye.
Mr. Chairman, before you take the vote,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
I just want to disclose that I'm the sheriff of Lincoln County. I am the law enforcement representative for the commission, appointed from the Sheriffs and Chiefs Association for the state. I just want to make sure we disclose that Lincoln County does have a grant in this bunch of applications here. So I am going to abstain from any voting as far as it comes toward this, although I don't think my abstention really matters because there was sufficient funding for all of them, but I will abstain from the voting.
And very good. All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Opposed?
I abstain.
Okay. All right. Motion carries. Volunteers for our committee of 3: Commissioner Jackson, Commissioner Giroux, Anyone else want to be on there? It'll have to be done between now and the 15th. So
I can, this is Commissioner Elmore, I can do it as long as we take care of it next week.
yeah,
No problem.
okay, very good. So then we will.
Who's the chair?
Want to take that, Michael? Talking? That's fine.
Experience.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Jackson will chair that, and it's our full intention that we have a discussion with them, come up with a recommendation in a properly noticed meeting, and have it on our regular agenda on the 15th so we can dispense with the recommendation.
What days can you do?
Yes. Commissioner Elmore.
This is Commissioner Elmore. Just the three of us maybe can get with Sharice by the end of the meeting or at the end of the meeting and try and pick a time and so we can get it going.
I was going to ask you what date you were available now.
I have to look at my calendar. I got it on my phone.
I won't have that today.
What's that?
I can call you this afternoon or something like that, but I would need to go back to
Yeah,
the
we
office.
can send you all the contacts for all you guys.
So maybe by the end of the day we
Yeah.
can try and get something.
Yeah.
Great.
Definitely.
Great. Very well. Oh, all right.
Commissioner McKay, Nathan
Yes.
Hastings, just to
Yes.
clarify, because and to be consistent with what Raylene had said, which is I think accurate and but just because of the way you had just
Phrased it.
phrased what the subcommittee
Okay.
would be accomplishing, what Sharice had said when we came back in after the break was that OCJA would be amenable to meeting with the subcommittee to determine whether its recommendation that has been put out here now would or would not be altered and in what fashion.
Okay.
So it's not so much for this subcommittee to make any recommendation to the full commission as much as to determine whether or not OCJA will be amending its recommendations. That just to clarify.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you did. Thank you. That work for you too, Raylene?
Yes.
Okay. Very well. All right. I think we could go to item number 9 there. Discussion of the public education outreach guidelines that will guide the Commission's grant guideline process for discussion and possible action. Commissioner Darren Elmore, head of the Public Education Outreach Committee, and the Commissioners will discuss what grant guidelines might be developed to effectively guide and score grant applicants applying for the public education outreach grants from the Commission. There may be a motion to specify what grant lines are to be included in the grant guideline process to give the Nevada Office of Grants, Procurement, Coordination, and Management for further development. All yours, Commissioner Elmore.
This is Commissioner Elmore for the record. Just needing to revisit this topic, which was on the last meeting's agenda, which we discussed a bit, but we really need to iron out some specific marketing, promotional, how we're going to tell our story, concepts, what we want to see specifically, so that we can give some direction to those who are going to ultimately be doing it. We do have the potential option to do some of this outside of the grant process through the competitive bidding process, which the chair has alluded to and is looking into. But what I think we really need to determine is for each of your individual representative user groups, the best way to get the message out and where we're going to get the most bang for our buck. So personally, as the sportsman's representative, I really feel like a well-rounded NVOHV website is going to be crux, as is social media, the big thing called social media, and we need to figure out specifically what we want there. Try and take rifle shots as opposed to a shotgun approach is my opinion, and then some printed material, brochures, trifolds that agencies, state parks, NDOW, any of the law enforcement agencies in the states can use for the educational and program promotion. Those are personally where I feel the best bang for the buck is, and then also curious from our dealer representative what the best way to get the message out in the dealerships is as well. Is it trifolds? Is it poster? what tools can we use there as well. So I guess I will open it up to any other commissioners to identify their specific wants and desires for how we tell our story and where we want to see.
Commissioner Lambert, for the record.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lambert.
There have been a couple successful campaigns that affect my user group well. A lot of them have dealt with getting involved with. I mean, if you want to reach out to the racing community, you need to reach out to the racing community and perhaps offer to do one side of their schedule and one side of our information on postcards. Having bought many, many trifolds and postcards in the motorcycle marketplace, I prefer postcards because they're not only down under 2 cents a piece, there's room on the counter for them. You don't find trifold stands in motorcycle shops in the same way you do in sporting goods stores. We do need to get the word out. I know that Northern and Southern Motorcycle Racing Associations in Nevada, which is Motorcycle Racing in Northern Nevada and Motorcycle Racing in Nevada, are both interested in presenting a postcard with their schedules every year. I've talked to folks that are presidents that are amiable and working with us to put our message on one side as we pick it up. Postcards run about, I think I've been paying about $150 a thousand for quite a reason. Or for spending $150 is 5,000. They're down around the same fees or something like that. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Gary. Any other commissioner comments on the public education outreach guidelines?
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I like the idea of brochures, and I would hope that in addition to that, we could have a smaller maybe brochure that can be sent out in the registration envelopes as DMV sends them out, telling those users where their monies have gone. You know, these are people that have paid the registrations and we've reached out to already. Simple way to get information into their hands.
This is Commissioner Lee.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lee. Sorry, Darren.
I also like the idea of brochures like a trifold. I would like to see something made for law enforcement so that those departments that have not taken the initiative to do that had these to hand out. I know a really nice one was made by Mesquite Police. They made a really nice trifold talking about the importance of registering it, and maybe I can even bring one next time. We designed one also that my officers were handing out before when they were giving warnings and said, here's why we have it, here's what the benefits are, and here's how you go about doing it, registering it, that type of thing. And it was really helpful. I think it would be a great idea to get one designed for not just law enforcement, but one that law enforcement officers could hand out. And if those agencies that wanted to put their logo also on it, well, then so be it. That's the way Mesquite was. Really, really nice, well done. But I think it's important, and I think those entities that, law enforcement entities that didn't take the initiative to get one, if we would even provide that for them, that would help. It would benefit us in the end, hugely. And I could take them to sheriffs and chiefs and say, here, please take these, whatever. So Darren, I think that would be a really important thing to do.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Any thoughts?
This is Commissioner Elmer for the record. Commissioner Giroux, what's said if we're going to tackle this beast at the dealer level? I know wall space is a premium, so I don't know if a poster necessarily works, but what do you see as the best way to close the loop at the dealership level?
Commissioner Giroux for the record. We currently try to educate, basically all the new purchasers, because we register everything new or used. For the last 2+ years, we've built basically a trifold handout, that just explained what was going on with the process and how to handle it and how we could help people do it. I agree it would be nice to have some participation with DMV, because we still get the people that go to DMV to register. They get turned, a lot of times they get directed back to the stores, but you wonder how many people at the turn just get frustrated. And so am I seeing 5% of the people come in that could have been handled, that took time out of their day to get this handled? So it's just a really tough thing. You're basically talking about an advertising type message. I'd love to see some, possibly some, I know some of the radio stations as well as TV will do public service messages that I don't believe will cost us money if we can pursue that avenue. I do agree with Commissioner Lee having just a set brochure, basically, but make it the same statewide, so that it can be given from law enforcement, it can be given from the dealerships. Definitely any of the racing agencies, I'd love to see them, get behind this, because we do have, I don't want to name names, but we have some of the racing people that, they still want to see this done away with. They don't, they don't really back us. And because there's not a requirement, at a race to have a registered machine, there's a gray area there. And again, I don't want to open a can of worms, but boy, it'd sure be nice to, at least have representation there. And if you're not registered, do you still get a race on Nevada land? Kind of, it's just an idea, and I'll throw it out there. And again, don't want to have my constituents coming back at me either, but I'm for the state and I'm for this program, so that's kind of, and I mean, we can discuss this 100 different ways to Sunday, but everything that we can do is gonna help, and it's got to get out there.
Commissioner Jackson?
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I think Mike touched on a really good point. PSAs. If we can get a PSA produced pretty cheaply, I've got some contacts in that world, and I'm talking hundreds of dollars, not thousands. But if we could produce our own PSA, we can get it out to the TV stations. They all have to do it. They all have to do some of that PSA. The other thing we can do with that, a lot of dealerships have TVs going all the time, or have advertisements on their TVs. We could get them to plug it into that. So I think a PSA would be a great idea, and again, we could get that done relatively cheaply. I have a lot of contacts in that world.
Mr. Jackson, one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet that everybody will have to be cognizant of is that you have to follow the state purchasing rules. So, and again, this will be on the agenda probably for next time, and we can get more specific about what has to be done. But you will have to involve state purchasing and follow all of the rules, because you are a state agency, a state commission.
Yes, Commissioner Jackson, for the record, yes, I understand. We just went through that with the with our social media request, so I'm very, very well aware of that now.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to educate you, just for anybody who would be aware. I know you're much more familiar with that stuff, so I don't want you to take it personally. It was meant for everybody.
Commissioner Moore.
This is Commissioner Elmer. One more thought that I failed to mention on my wish list was to have a standard ad for print, such as the NVOHV brochures that we've worked on in the past. So something that we can just drop in, adjust as needed, maybe a half a page and a full page ad for publications such as those. That was another thing that I highlighted as important that I forgot to mention.
Great.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record. We may want to just streamline this and and put out to bid and get a as a contract situation as opposed to a grant, but put out to bid for a public relations firm to do this all for us. And we can suggest what we want. This is the areas we want to hit, but they can do everything from the ad, the layout, the PSA, design of a brochure, getting the brochure printed. They can just do everything for us, and we can do it as one shot. And we can get 3 or 4 of them in here and get a bid.
This is Commissioner Elmore. We're in the process of confirming as to whether or not we can do that in the outside contract channel versus the grant or awards channel. So we have to get the green light to do that. And then, yeah, absolutely. I think it's everybody's wish that we streamline this as much as possible. We just have to come up with the list, whether it's through the grant process or through an external outside bid. We have to give them a list of what we want, and this is what we're working on.
Yeah, excellent. Commissioner McKay, for the record, a lot of good ideas that were stated here. I think, our brochure is going to have to give some basic information of what we do, how we're organized, what we're allowed to do, and those conditions. We're going to have to emphasize the value to a purchaser. Why does that benefit him, the sport, and the state? We may want to, as a sideline, if we have our first set of grant recipients, we might want to put that in there, show that the money is going back out, how it's attended. We could emphasize different riding areas, have an awareness campaign as far as the safety, the environment, survival, and of course get the PSAs. I think you could get some newspaper articles in there that would be information that you wouldn't have to pay for. And also do some work with the clubs, some education, some support there, awareness training, so they can become better partners with us. But yeah, I think we'll have to kind of pare it down to general list, and it'll work either if we do the grant process or we go out as a contractor to do it. So, any other comments by any other commissioners? Commissioner Elmore, do you feel comfortable with kind of boiling that down to a more specific list? I think we had a lot of overlap as far as what we were looking for, which is good.
This is Commissioner Elmore for the record. I'm taking some notes. I will rework these and have them for you guys for the next meeting or the next time that this is on the agenda.
Excellent. Okay. Any other comments, public or commissioners, on this? Anything we're missing or good ideas?
Can I speak in a public comment?
Sure.
Just a suggestion, and I'm kind of leaning more towards Gary's suggestion on the racing community. If you put a postcard, they're going to read the front of it. If you put a trifold, they're going to read the front of it and toss it in the truck. And it's going to end up on the floorboard. Just a suggestion to keep both in mind, because in some situations a trifold's going to be interesting. In others, they're going to lose interest and it's going to end up on the truck. Okay. Just a suggestion.
All right, thank you.
And that was Doreen Rigsby.
Would you just identify yourself for the record, please?
Doreen Rigsby for the record.
Thank you.
Very good.
Commissioner Jackson, to that point,
Commissioner Jackson.
I studied this ad nauseum about what people will read in advertisements and what they'll read in brochures. Trust me, for the last 10 years, if you don't get them in the first 11 words, you're done.
Okay. Message better be spot on. So, all right.
Picture is
Thank
better
you.
than 1,000 images.
Any further comments? Very well. Thank you, Darren, and thanks for your work here in the near future. Number 10. The discussion of the grant guidelines and scoring process in the Commission's grant process. For discussion on possible action, Commissioner Cox, head of the Regulation Grant Guidebook Committee, and the Commissioners will discuss and decide what grant guidelines might be developed to effectively guide and score grant applicants for Commission grants. There may be a motion to specify what grant guidelines are to be included in the grant process to give to the Nevada Office of Grant Procurement, Coordination, and Management for further development. So, Commissioner Cox, I yield to you.
This is Commissioner Cox. So we discussed in our last meeting that the guideline book that's been kind of developed is pretty close to where we want to be. And we had talked about, for this meeting, creating a list of priorities that would go in, at least the way this book is laid out on the bottom of page 3, top of page 4, and had hoped that commissioners would come to this meeting with those, some priorities in mind of what they would like to see. So a couple of suggestions to start with. Nevada off-highway vehicle users must be the primary beneficiaries of any grant awarded. Grant projects that are submitted by legally recognized Nevada off-highway vehicle clubs registered with the state of Nevada be given high priority. Projects that demonstrate a high need and that have all applicable permits and approvals, basically the term we've come to know as shovel-ready, be given high priority. And then there might be a little conflict on this one. Projects to map critical OHV trails, roads, and express approval or coordination of data with Carson City and Southern Nevada BLM districts. And some conversations that I had earlier today, even with Sue, even though it's our great desire to get everything mapped and publicized, BLM's being a little reluctant because they want to make sure that all the trails and roads we say should be on the map, if they're really going to put it on the map before we publish it. And so I don't know how we're going to overcome that obstacle. But it is important to us, to get some accurate mapping. I know there's been extensive mapping done down here in my part of the state. So I don't know. So with that, I think I'd open it up to the other commissioners to see what their priorities are. I think we're at the point we can list our priorities and give this back to
Sheila.
So we can get it finalized.
Any other thoughts on grant guideline priorities from other commissioners?
Commissioner Baker.
Commissioner Baker.
I think just because of our low registration, I think with every grant, something that identifies more outreach and education with regard to the process is important, because I think as exciting as it is to create maps and have those available, I think until we get a higher participation than 10% of the users, our number one goal needs to be more outreach to get more registrations in. So I think with every component, every grant, there's got to be some kind of a commitment that awardee works to get more word out. So I don't know if we can put that as a condition up front so that they build that into their proposal, but I'd like to see something like that. How can they help us get the word out? Even if they're not applying for the education and outreach grant, for whatever they're applying for, there's got to be an element of connecting with their organization or figuring out how to help us get the word out more for the registration. So I think we should emphasize that.
Excellent suggestion. Thank you. Any other commissioners? Someone on the phone that'd like to make a comment? No. Yeah, there's a couple of things we could consider, and I think Sue's suggestion was great there. They were also, and it could just be more direction to the Office of Grants than an actual grant guideline, but that minor omissions and oversight in the grant application process that can be handled in the contract negotiation phase shall not be considered grounds for an incomplete application. And I'm looking more at, say, the clubs that may not have the sophistication to make a super tight grant thing. If it's a minor issue, that it can be dealt with in the contract negotiations, that it doesn't kick them out of the process. That's just,
Then do you want to change that part in the, this is Commissioner Cox, you want to change that part, the wording in the proposed regulation? Because that's what we're talking, I mean, the proposed guidebook, that's what we're talking about.
no, I don't think we probably want to mess with the regulation. I think maybe it's just some general direction to the grants office there, so. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because we made it spelled out, is it,
Yeah,
that non-voting advisors or something, no, the office is going to determine whether it's a
complete or not.
complete application or not.
All right. We may be smart to leave it at that. And just a couple of things for
No, the office of management was
consideration. It may not be top priorities.
$470.
The projects that already have the necessary approvals and permits with and club support and are ready to begin a project are to be given a high priority. So if there's something out there that's just lacking one critical piece, which is our funding, that it may be shovel ready to get done. And along your thought there about, I've had a lot of input from people saying that this mapping in the state is a very important process. And I think if it's coordinated with BLM, that they actually have an approval of what needs to be mapped, and that they will accept the data in their process, then that would probably be a decent priority for us too. And if BLM can't give assurance that they'll use the data or they approve of the data, then we probably shouldn't fund it. And we also didn't discuss any about any studies that we can do. If there's projects in highly desired off-highway vehicle areas that need environmental studies to expand or maintain the riding areas, that they might be given a high priority. So that's if it's NEPA or some other form of study that needs to be done and the other agencies don't have that funding. The commission does have that ability, and it might be a good benefit. And then if we looked at any studies that might help us understand OHV's situation and impact in Nevada, how to better capture the OHV and business participation in the state, then we might consider that. So that's just a couple other thoughts there. So
I think then we're to the point where if we agree on these points, we should agree on it and take action so that we can get this back to the Office of Grants to finalize this book.
All right. Do you want to run through your initial, or how's the best way to do consensus there?
Well, I think everyone has this piece of paper that was sent out in the last few days with some suggested grant guidelines, don't they?
Mm-hmm. And we might want to add Sue's on there. I think her point about any grant we have should have some sort of outreach component to increase.
I think number 8 covered that. Studies that would facilitate an understanding of OHV situation and how we can better capture participation.
Okay. Yeah, it might just be worded a little different, but it could. So would you like to hit your list again and see how the...
I guess some commissioners said they didn't get this list, so why don't we send it out for the next meeting, put it on the agenda, and finalize everything at the next meeting. That way, if there's any, we can incorporate Sue's suggestion into it, and if some other commissioners have a thought today, we can incorporate into it.
That's fair. Or Commissioner McKay, for the record, if you want to try and take a stab at refining that list with today's input and send it back to them, that might be helpful.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay. Very good. Any other points by the commissioners or public? Okay. Hearing none. Let's go to DMV report. Get you up, down, up, down.
Yeah. I'm starting to feel out of place. Doreen Rigsby for the record. I have the revenue expense report that follows through for fiscal year 15 up to May 31st. So we have the total revenues for OHV as $603,657.25. The DMVs are $416,422.25. For the total revenues coming into that section is $1,020,079.50. Our expenses, total DMV revenues less is $182,259.86. Our total registrations do not go through May. That report will run this weekend, so I'll send the update to the chairman on Monday. But through 4/31/15, we have 40,951 actively registered OHVs. And I don't have anything else specific.
Okay. Any comments or questions by the commission on the DMV report?
They were saying.
Well, it's Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Commissioner Cox.
Okay, I always, I'm looking at the report for last month that showed total revenue of $548,420.85. And then I'm looking at the report now, the revenues of $603,657.25. So that says to me that DMV, our portion of the monies that we should have received from DMV should be $55,236.40. But in the treasurer's report we got a little earlier, it shows the actual deposit into our account was only $51,799. And so I'm just trying to understand. I've been seeing these discrepancies the last few months, and I keep bringing this up. And I'm assuming that the DMV is selling registrations, they're depositing money into an account, but I don't know who in the state or how it works that distributes the money from that account into our account, and I don't understand why the numbers don't correlate.
Well, the Department of Motor, this is Doreen Rigsby for the record. The Department of Motor Vehicles has 10 specific, and we call them buckets, that are all associated to off-road highway funds that are collected. Once they're put into that, they're divided into where they belong. So if there's a title fee, it's going to stay with the department. If there's a registration fee that goes to the commission, or the registration fee that goes to the department, that are divided between 85 and 15. Those are all specific. So what I give you is the total. But what I'm curious about is, you said 28,000 was last deposited?
It's 225.
I didn't say that.
Okay, how much was the last one that was deposited?
25,925.
25,925. But I'm just looking at your report, and your report is telling me at the end of April, the monies given to us, the Off-Highway Vehicle Commission, was $548,000 plus, and in May it's $603,000 plus. So you're telling me out of those 10 buckets that our portion should have had a plus $55,236. But yet only $51,000 went into the account. So I'm just trying to figure out why the discrepancy when you're telling me that my commission should have gotten $55,000 based on your report.
And I think that they would have by May 1, because the deposit, June, because the deposit that I'm seeing that's 20,000. That was for the period between May 1 through May 15. And that's deposited into the OHV Commission, and that was
Right, but I've
$20.
already seen I've already seen the June deposit, and it's way more than 4,000. The $3,400 difference between what I'm thinking. You're saying that at 603,000, we should have got 55,000 into our account. We got 51,000 into our account. The next deposit I already saw is $20-some thousand. So I'm just trying to understand how this whole process works. And does a different agency actually make the deposit and transfer the funds from the bucket you put it in? Does the state treasurer transfer the funds into our account, and do they transfer in the correct amount?
The state treasurer does transfer those accounts. I'm seeing a $55,000 deposit at the very end, so I'm going to need to see exact numbers, and what we can do is get with our revenue manager and be able to try to figure out exactly what they have, because they're going to have the deposit receipt within their revenue office. So I'm going off of reports from our budget analyst. So if there's something discrepancy, I need to see that so that we can let the state treasurer know.
Chairman McKay, Charlie, could you just kind of gin up a little summary of what you think the discrepancies are and get it to me, and I will have Doreen and Sean check on their end and report back at the next meeting if we can resolve it.
I can do that, but you basically gave it in the treasurer's report. You told the two deposits that were deposited in May, 25,874 and 25,925, which add up to 51,799.
Well, there were three deposits for May.
I think what might be happening too is, like during the report, we get a report from one division, and the timing could be different from when the deposits actually hit and what we're reporting on here. So we need to figure out those timing issues.
But I know, but my point is, let's take the total OAV revenues you're showing of $603,657.25. At the end of May, the total deposited into our account was only $588,571. So there's a $15,000 difference. So I can understand those timing issues, but it keeps happening and it keeps increasing month after month. That's why I have a concern. Is the agency that transfers the money transferring the correct amounts?
So, yeah, and because it is outside of the scope of my position or what division that I work over, I'm going to need to see those. And because it's near the end of the fiscal year, if you would bring July forward to all your deposits or let me know what ones they are, we'll compare them, and then, like I said, I can get with the revenue officer that has the exact information and what type of deposits.
If Greg can send me your email address, I will send you a spreadsheet of all the deposits for the year.
No problem.
Okay. And then we can report back and see if there's discrepancies, just reporting periods or whatever.
Yeah.
That sound good?
Great.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 12, discussion about using social media and other advertising forms to inform the public about the Nevada OHV program for discussion only. The Commission may hear from Edward Vento and discuss about using social media and other advertising to increase awareness about the Commission's program. So you on the line there, Edward?
I am, sir. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name, for the record, my name is Edward Vento. I'm the managing partner of EC Vento and Company, the Battleborn Marketing Group. And we specialize in public affairs, government affairs, and marketing. And we also do business intelligence. And what that basically is just research on business numbers and that kind of stuff. I'm available for whatever questions you may have, if you want to start that way, or I could just kind of maybe give you an idea of what the landscape is for other like organizations, how they're using social media and such.
Very good, Edward.
Commissioner
Paul?
Jackson, for the record. Edward, can you outline how you would increase the Commission's exposure to the general public and more specifically, OHV users by the use of social media, Facebook, and that type of thing?
Well, I think when you use social media, it's largely an opt-in kind of event. So you have to, convince or incentivize people to come to the Facebook page, to join the Twitter handle and such. So then you can push out information to them. So one of the most important aspects of that is how you will do that. Creating the Twitter handle and creating the Facebook page is relatively simple. What we had envisioned for those things is once people are there, there's a certain coolness factor to it. And we can certainly send you some artwork so you can look at to give you an idea of that. You will definitely have to work with your vendors. I think there's, and I could be wrong, there could be 60 or 70 of them across the state, where we could somehow have them push people to the Facebook site, to the Twitter site, so then we can push information to those folks. And the Facebook and the Twitter would be used differently. Did that answer your question, Mr. Jackson?
Yes. Well, we'll let Paul Jackson for the record. So would you go out to people who have got large followers on Facebook, friend them, and then ask them to post for us, so then we could get their friends to move in?
I think you take maybe 3 or 4 different directions to do that, because as you look through the Facebook kind of universe, the social media universe, and you look at like organizations like yourselves, they've set up pages, but they haven't done a whole lot to get people to come to the pages. But the people that are on the pages are very active. So I think what I would do is number one is reach out to the vendors, and I know some of the commissioners on the board are also have their own businesses in this forum. So you start there by asking them to blast out to their Facebook followers or Twitter followers if they have any, to ask to follow them. And we may or may not be able to have a list of emails that we can rent, and those are relatively cheap. They're about $100 to $150, and we can usually specify people who are kind of into off-road, highway sports, that we can blast the Twitter handle and the Facebook thing, say, hey, join our Facebook for updates, that kind of thing. You can certainly create some posters or something that maybe you can put up in the stores or with DMV to have people aware that they're there. And then certainly have a call to action so they're able to do that, and give them a reason why they should follow you on Twitter and follow you on Facebook. There's really all sorts of different ways to go. I mean, we've even done small sweepstakes to incentivize people to come onto the page and like the page. And usually once they like it, they stay on it. And so there's really different ways to go. It just depends on what the commission ultimately approves. And that's usually how we work those kind of things.
Excellent. Any questions from the commission of Mr. Bento? Go ahead.
You're asking me if I have questions?
No. Paul Jackson for the record. No, he was asking if there was any questions from the commission. One thing I would ask, what type of cost are we looking at? Now, obviously, this has got to go out to bid.
Right. It really depends depends on how big you want to go. I think to begin with, I would probably just put my toes in the water, and I spend. I definitely probably spend no more than $1,000 to get it started. If you start printing things, to put in the stores and stuff like that, it definitely gets a little higher. But creating the pages themselves and maybe an email blast or something to give it a kickstart or a very small printing run, I would think no more than anything between $500 and $1,000 to do that. And certainly you need somebody to maintain the Facebook page and the Twitter page, because you want to keep content fresh, you want to keep things relevant. So that's something to think about, whether somebody on staff would do that, or you would hire a company to do that. For example, we represent the Hispanic Medal of Honor Society, and so we take care of their Facebook page. They're fixing to do a launch right now. We also do Art Nevada Radio as well, and we set it up in a day. They had 250 followers. So. It just kind of depends on what you want to do. But my thought is initially, I think anywhere between $500 to $1,000 would be sufficient to kick off the campaign. And because again, we're thinking a very grassroots type of campaign. No commercials, no billboards. Just maybe some printing in the stores, and also getting those vendors to help out and maybe provide links for their followers to follow.
Do you guys have a Facebook?
Huh?
You guys have a Facebook?
Very good.
So, but for the social media campaign, I don't foresee a large expense.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions by commission or public? Commissioner Giroux?
Commissioner Giroux, for the record. So what you're suggesting is you setting up an actual Facebook page for the commission, if I'm understanding this correctly?
Yes, sir.
And then as far as maintaining that page, is that something that you do as well?
Well, that's what we do. I don't want to be presumptuous and say that my company, be the one to do it. I'm sure you will send this out to bid or something. But what I would suggest is, if you don't have staff that could maintain the page, that whatever company would bid on this, that it would include maintenance on the Facebook page and maybe the Twitter handle. I don't see the need for Instagram or Google Plus, but the Facebook and the Twitter definitely needs to be updated. And I would suggest maybe an update a week. Doesn't have to be every day, with just some relevant content. It could be posting the agenda for the commission so people are aware. It could be posting a frequently asked question on registrations. It really could be anything, just to keep the public informed and engaged. But I would definitely make that part of the criteria when a bid is designed, an RFP is designed. As to the creation of the Facebook page and the creation of the Twitter page, it's relatively simple. And in fact, it doesn't take long. It's building the followers and building the content, just keeping it fresh. That takes some work. But again, I don't foresee, if you all were to do this, having it cost more than $1,000 to begin with. And I know, and maybe some of you have had pages for your businesses, and they're relatively simple to start. But again, you have to maintain them, and you have to create a following for them. And that is where the work really takes place.
Commissioner.
So, and in my company's case, we create custom artwork for those kinds of things. We don't really use, we don't just take an image off the internet or something and
Commissioner Giroux, for the record, yeah, I agree with you. I think the startup is, pretty minuscule compared to the upkeep, and that was, I guess, my next question. What would your company charge to upkeep a Facebook page?
Honestly, if it were my company, if it was us, I'd probably say, we could maintain your social media for easily for about, I'd say $1,000 a year. That's creating everything, putting some images up there every once in a while just to keep it fresh and fun, and also taking updates from the commission or whoever the commission designates and refreshing the content. And that's, because to create the actual page doesn't take very long, but to actually market the page and update it, that again, that's where the work comes in, and getting the followers, that's where the work comes in. But, and a lot of that $1,000 would probably be used on printing to get some things out to the stores, And again, you can go as big as you want. I've seen people spend up to $5,000. We did a record label where they spent $5,000 to get people to an artist's Facebook page, and she was at 3,000. I think we ended up at something like 450,000 followers when we were done. But it's two different goals there. You're trying to inform. They're trying to get followers that follow this artist that sell records. So, but I don't think it would. I'd feel comfortable with, if one of my guys were to quote it and say, hey, I quoted this for $1,000, and we're going to build the page, we're going to maintain it, and we might fill out a couple of email blasts to see if we can, get people to follow it. So I would say about $1,000.
Commissioner Giroux, for the record.
For 1 year.
So if I understand this right, we're looking basically at $1,000 startup and about $1,000 a year for upkeep, and that would be basically once a week.
No, sir. We would quote it at $1,000 with the startup and for the year.
So $1,000 all in.
Okay, so $1,000 all in, and that would basically give a weekly update to our Facebook page. Obviously,
correct. Correct. We use two different softwares. We use one specifically where we can schedule updates. So you could give me something today, and I can schedule it to post next week. We're also able to give you statistics on visits and things like that. But again, once it's set up, the setup is pretty simple. The upkeep takes a little time. But we're able to post if we set up a Twitter for you, if we set up a Facebook page for you, we're able to post it both simultaneously. So it's not like I have to log into one and log into the other and things like that. So if you give me content, we post it. And that's kind of why, I'm not saying I'm going to do this for $5,000 for the year, because I think this is a relatively straightforward campaign. I'm not, we're not doing it sweepstakes or anything like that. So,
okay.
So $1,000 already done about. Right?
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Mr. Vento, thank you very much for volunteering your time and expertise and giving us a little education on social media. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you.
Your opportunity. Okay, come on.
Commissioner Jackson.
Would the chair entertain us putting this on an upcoming agenda, probably, the 15th or maybe July, and so we can put an RFP together, and then let's see if we can get on bids.
Sounds good. Will do. All right. Thank you. Item number 15, discussion of forming an executive secretary search committee or other options for filling the position. It's for discussion and possible action. Kim Miller, our executive secretary, has accepted full-time employment with another employer. She has offered to continue assisting the commission for an interim period. The commission will discuss the possible formation of an executive secretary search committee or other options to fill this requirement. The commission may make a motion to form a search committee and begin the replacement process. So Kim has done us a good job, but she got a better offer, more hours and better benefits, and in the improving economy, I think that's a situation we may have to live with. I think we have a couple of options here. The number one applicant when we did the search last time has possibly indicated an interest to work for the commission. We could appoint somebody under temporary authority as a temporary secretary. We may have an applicant that's willing to do that. Or we go out and do the whole job search process. So I basically wanted to throw these options out to the group, and I know Sue was very instrumental in our last search process, and wonder what she thought her thoughts would be on this.
Commissioner Jackson.
All right, go ahead, Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, if the person who was our number one pick from last time was willing to take the job, it's not agendized to hire us, so we'd have to agendize it for the next meeting, but could we find out if she definitely wants the job? If she does, hire her temporarily, and then schedule it at the next meeting for a vote. And then we can move forward. We don't have to put a committee together. We don't have to do anything. It would just be a matter of hiring her, since we've already interviewed her and she was the number one candidate.
Raylene, what do you? Oh, go ahead. What do you think about that as far as process?
I would have to look into that, but I don't know, is this commission, do you have to follow any of the state personnel hiring rules or anything, or have you had to do that in the past, or do you even know if you were supposed to do that?
I'd say the latter.
No, we did.
Commissioner Baker, I know I worked with the state, and I gave them the job description, and they posted it.
Okay.
And then they handed me the applications, and then I let them know who we selected. So they assisted and they posted it. So I'm thinking we were legal because we worked for them to do it.
Yes. Okay.
One would like to think that. I think we were legal.
But how does that? This is Commissioner Cox, and how does that? If we want to just hire the person who was number one, what state guidelines would we have to follow?
Right.
And I absolutely do not know the answer to that as I sit here without the laws in front of me, so that would require me to do a little bit of research for you.
Okay. I can tell, this is Commissioner Baker, I can tell the commissioners that I did talk to Nanita. She was going to sit in on the phone call today, but I don't know that she was working as well, so she might have just joined at the very beginning and then maybe isn't here right now. She's very interested. When I had the conversation with her, she's looking for it to be not a little job, a bigger job. We didn't talk how much revenue she was looking to come in each month. We did talk about what the salary, what we currently paying Kim is. I talked to her about the option, if she was interested and if we were interested in her also taking on some type of the grant management component. She's very interested in that. She's dabbled in it before, and so she liked that idea as well. She did send me an email this morning just saying, I'll be listening to part of the meeting this morning. Can we touch base on Monday or Tuesday of next week to learn the status of the position and what the process you guys will be going through? I'm currently working and would have to give notice, so I just want to work out all the details if there is a possibility of me taking the position. So I think the idea of her working temporary probably isn't going to be attractive to her because she's going to want to know more of the details. Sounds like she's going to be, if she wanted to go forward and we could offer her the position, she'd have to give her resignation somewhere else. So, but I think maybe once you find out if we could just offer her the position, the other thing is we should probably talk about what would that look like and would we want to expand it to be some grant management and what monies would be fully available for that.
Well, Commissioner McKay, for the record, we have our administration account, which is 5% of our overhead, so I think there's sufficient funding if she wanted to take that grant application process on. And that expense, if we go through the channel we've been going through the last couple months, there probably wouldn't be a lot of grant application paperwork till late summer, early fall with some contracting and that type of stuff. The actual disbursements may come virtually after the first of the year. But I think it's a good idea because we're going to have somebody do that. So it's either going to be an activity of one of the commissioners or the executive secretary could do it.
Yeah.
Commissioner Elmore?
Commissioner Elmore, for the record, I think that it's good to get these answers questions, but in the meantime, in the next 30 days, we have a full commission meeting, a subcommittee meeting. So I'm curious, do we have any notion from Kim as to whether she would continue to work for us through like June 30th? Allow us to give us the time to get some of these questions answered and get to where we can take the next step at the next meeting.
Sure. I'll answer that and then I'll get right to you, Paul.
Yep.
Kim is willing to help us out and not leave us in a lurch. Probably the most immediate impact would just be her availability at the meeting. She can still handle all the support functions, the website, etc. So I don't think it's an immediate crisis. Yeah, it'd be preferable that we would have her here also, but I think we can manage in the near term without a replacement.
And to follow up on that, it sounds like we need to appoint somebody, a commissioner, to coordinate with Raylene on some of this stuff and to handle, how we're going to move forward. I'm not saying I'm the person for that,
yes, I understand.
but I think that's something that we do need to do.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, we did have somebody come in temporarily, Joanne Schumacher, last year. She's very familiar with the situation. I just texted her and asked her if she would be interested in doing the job temporarily, just to get us through whatever time it takes us to get a permanent hire. And she said yes. So we have that option. Again, she's familiar with the commission. She stepped in and helped us out before. So.
Okay. Thanks for that option. I'd like to appoint a group to work on this topic. Do we have any volunteers?
I'm more than happy to keep going.
Okay. So we have Sue Baker. We have Commissioner Jackson. Any others?
If you start forming a group, then you're talking about open meeting.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I'll probably sit on that also. So perhaps we have this committee of 3 that, and Commissioner Baker, would you agree to be chairman of that committee?
I will.
Okay. Hang on. Well, go ahead.
This Commissioner, I guess I'm curious. Do we need a formal committee? Can we just appoint a facilitator, one person?
That might be a better idea.
I think that's.
Are you comfortable, Sue, with Raylene and you working together?
Sure.
And what I'm thinking is Raylene can find out exactly legally how we can take care of this issue, if we can use a former applicant on a permanent basis or temporary and make it permanent basis. The other temporary possibility with Joanne. And just report back at our next commission meeting your recommendation. We can agendize it and make sure that it's discussed openly and completely. Is that acceptable to the body?
Yes.
I think general direction probably works okay, unless you want to make a motion.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
So is there a motion?
Do we need a motion?
I think we just have general consensus. Or do you prefer a formal motion there, Raylene, or you think general direction will work just fine?
Well, I think in order to know what the general direction is, you need to take a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Very good. Commissioner Elmore?
Commissioner Elmore,
Hang on one sec, Gary. Go ahead, Darren.
Commissioner Elmore, for the record, I make a motion that we appoint Commissioner Baker to work with Raylene to explore our executive secretary options moving forward. In the meantime, we ask that Kim help us out in the next 30 days.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Drew, I'll second that.
Commissioner Drew seconds. Discussion? Commissioner Lambert?
No, I was going to make a motion. We're in good stuff.
Okay. Very well. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Very well. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Sue and Raylene.
You need to do agenda item 11.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually
Can we
waiting
table
for
it
our
to-
guest,
Oh, who's our guest?
Will Adler. But we
Can we
could.
table it to next time?
Yeah. If it pleases the commission, as far as our legislative update, actually, Will was planning to be here at 11:30, but we could table this to our June 15th meeting, which is 10 days away. Does that work for the commission? Probably works from the...
That was just a suggestion.
Okay.
Chairman Kay, will
Yes.
that inconvenience your guest at all? I mean, is he en route? Because
Not
it's
yet.
only 10 minutes away.
You know what? If you want to wait 60 seconds, I'll get you an answer to that. Maybe it would work. Yes.
Yeah, if he's on his way and he's scheduled to be here at 11:30, I mean, we could take a 10-minute break.
Sure. Or we could
I
make...
hate to just cancel it and have him drive for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we could do public comment next meeting too in the meantime, so...
No, you need to take public comment at the
At
end.
the end, okay.
Schedule the next meeting.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I get that at home.
It's good to have a rule keeper.
Yeah.
I know.
Hey, well, Greg, how are you? Good. Are you close?
Kenny? Yeah.
Yeah. How far out are you?
She got a call. This is just.
Oh, all right. All right. Yeah, we'll take a 5 to 10 minute break then.
We're taking a 10-minute break.
All right, thanks. All right, bye. I talked to our guest for the item number 11, and he's about 5 minutes out, maybe a few more than that. So you want to just take a break?
Yeah.
We can reconvene in 5 minutes plus. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very well. Everyone like to have a seat? Hi. Expect to walk into something like
That's fine.
very well. For the record, this is Chairman McKay. We're reconvening after a short break at 11:32 a.m. And we're going to discuss item number 11, the 2015 legislative session updates for discussion and possible action. And as our guest, we have Will Adler from Capital Partners that will assist in the discussion about the legislative session as much as he can.
Yep.
So, Will, want to start?
Well, I'm Will Adler, for the record, Capital Partners. At the beginning of the session, Robin Titus proposed a bill that would essentially kill the OHV Commission because it would remove all registrations and all funding for the commission. basically on the premises that it was a bad bill to start with and all that. So that was a good couple months of negotiating, fighting, working it out with her. That ended in having a great compromise for 217, which was her own bill, Assembly Bill 217. However, that bill became sort of a target bill for her from the other Republicans who wished her to vote for the taxes. So it ended up happening. So that bill, I kid you not, became her hostage bill, and she was told that she had to play ball with everybody else and get along, or that bill was not going to survive. And it did not survive. She held strong. I give her all the credit in the world for that. But Assembly Bill 217 did not make it. This is not, a bad thing, because the original intent of the bill was to kill the OHV Commission, the registration program, and all the funding for it. So overall, it was kind of tough after we got it to a place where we liked the bill to have it die, but it's still better than if the bill had passed as it was written at the beginning of the legislative session. And then the other bill that directly affects the Commission is Senate Bill 492. This bill was proposed by DMV as a way to get direct payment for DMV and then a transfer of all excess funds to the OHV Commission. That bill had a small hiccup when it came to dealer plates, which is this very small amount of license plates that was also going to have the revenue given to the Off-Highway Vehicle Commission. That became a tax fee issue, so those plates, the funding for those had to be taken off as well to get that to pass. But that bill passed, and we now have a direct funding mechanism between DMV and the Off-Highway Vehicle Commission. Other than that, it was a pretty successful legislative session. Nobody really got one over on the OHV Commission, and you should be able to operate for the next 2 years intact and really prove what you guys want to prove, that you're a capable grant writing program and that you'll be able to continue from here on out into the future. Anything else?
What happened, Commissioner Jackson, for the record, what's happened to Mr. Settlemeyer's bill, which Mr. Settlemeyer invited us to add any amendments we wanted, and including the 8 things that we really wanted could have been added into there. Could you explain why that didn't happen?
That didn't happen because initially Settlemeyer said, well, he had his own bill, and then he removed everything. He said, it's an empty jacket, feel free to fill it. The first amendment we proposed, and we sort of wrote together, was declared unnecessary because it had already been pretty much covered in the last legislative session. So I quickly wrote in a few more amendments, and one of the 2 was declared ungermane to the bill's original intent. The one where we declared that instead of being a person to apply for a grant, we made it an applicant. So it could be state, it could be anybody. It could be a government facility, a state program could apply for grants from the OHV Commission. They declared that that change brought it into some sort of non-germane in compliance with the original intent of the bill. So Settlemeyer's bill, we were making these last-ditch amendments 2 days out from the first kill date of all bills, and they declared because we didn't really get on top of that in time that we weren't able to use that jacket. And it was something that, if he had told us 2 weeks earlier, we could have really had a good stab at it, but he told us literally 3 days before, heck, put whatever you want in there. 3 days wasn't quite enough time to draft up, perfect language. So that was really the problem there.
Paul Jackson, for the record, I disagree with that, because I personally told you all the way along that he was willing to put those things in, and he had communicated that to me, and because I was in a position where I wasn't able to do that, because I was not appointed by the Commission to do that, I couldn't do it. All I could do was keep on begging you guys to do it, and it didn't get done. In fact, you put that amendment was put in on a Wednesday when the hearing was going to be on a Thursday, and by the time it got there, again, if I'd been consulted, we would have been able to get it through without having to do something that wasn't germane. There were 8 things that we wanted, and at least 7 of them were germane.
Well, Will Adler, for the record, the First Amendment drafted, we wrote together, sitting at a couch, as I recall.
That's correct.
And it was something that apparently had already been covered in 2013, was their biggest gripe with it. LCB declared that this was a non-issue and did not need to be put into NRS at all, whatsoever. So that was the First Amendment.
Could we just clarify what that issue was?
The second draft of it, if you have a copy, that'd be good. But the second draft amendment rounds was after the first rejection. I had about 2 hours to write a new amendment, so I wrote 2 new amendments into it and drafted it. So I was not personally contacted. I believe Capital Partners might have been, but I was put on this. I'd say about a week before that, and that was the second time I had spoken with you, Mr. Jackson. Thank you. If the amendments, yes, the jacket did not get used. It's a waste. It's a shame. But we got next round because 217 was the priority. If that had gone through, it would have killed the commission as written. So that was the one shining light. Is that we modified it. We got it to where we wanted it to be. It became internal politics with the Republican Party. It wasn't our fault that 217 died at that point. But we did stop it from passing as it was originally written, and that was the #1 threat to the OHV Commission this year.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I'm not going to debate. I'm not going to get in an argument with it. It's done. It's done. But what I would like is if the chair would allow us to continue this agenda item until next meeting, and I would like to provide everybody on the commission with a link to one of the Transportation Committee meetings. I'm not going to make comment on what happened in that meeting, but I would, and it's very short, it's probably less than 10 minutes. I would just like the people on the commission to be able to look at that link, form their own opinion, and then continue the discussion. So if Chair, if it would be okay with you, I would like to table this and continue it at the next meeting, and which would allow me to email the link and obviously put the link on the website.
Any other comments, questions by the commission?
I just would like Commissioner Baker, Paul, I'm just trying to understand will it help us move forward, or is it just a disclosure of past events?
Paul Jackson, for the record. I think it's a combination of both.
I know.
Commissioner Elmore?
Yes.
This is Commissioner Elmore. I guess in my opinion, this only reinforces, one, our need to do some good and get some money on the ground and have something to talk about in a shining light manner for the next legislative session. But to also try and find somebody who can really help us with a dialed-in, ahead of the curve bill for the next session, because we do have some of these lingering issues, late fees, this applicant versus person, and we were clearly behind the 8 ball in this session due to timing and coming into it late. And I just don't think that if the program is going to continue, that we can be in the same position next year. So we need to do a better job. We have 2 years to do it, and we really should try and solicit a friend of the OHV committee who can really help us with that.
Yeah, better sponsor.
And I think that this probably needs to be a standing agenda item for these want list, things that are going to continue to come up that we need to have adjusted in order to work efficiently.
Good suggestions. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Now that we have the bill in place for the direct funding, is there something in that bill that still guarantees us the 85% and we get the money's left over after that, or did we lose our guaranteed income?
You lost the 85-15 guarantee. You have a thing of it's the revenue over their expenses to be dispersed on a quarterly basis.
I understand that, but how do we know that their expenses aren't going to increase to the point where we suffer?
Well, you have our monthly report, and you just have that continuing dialogue with the DMV and us to get apprised if there's any change. And there isn't any proposed change in personnel or anything at the moment.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record.
Commissioner Jackson.
Charlie, to partially answer your question, if you review the link, that was the bill we're talking about was SB 492, and it went to Assembly Transportation, and the link is that actual committee meeting. And again, I'm not going to make an opinion on that. I think we all should look at it and make our own opinion.
Okay. Any for Commissioner Drew?
Commissioner Drew, for the record. Where did we end up with the tax credit? I know that was something that I've been pushing now for more than a few years, and I thought that was on the table, and it sounded like it got basically knocked out. And that's, I think it's not fair to the Nevada residents, as well as, trying to get definition of these off-road vehicles to become a vehicle. So, and I know that was, talked about, and I thought we laid the groundwork to get that done. So what happened there?
Well, it was addressed as an issue of concern to us, as well as all those others, late fees, applicants, sponsors, all that. But it didn't get put on any amendment.
I'm sorry, it was.
Well, you proposed in that hearing.
Commissioner Jackson, for the record, I really don't want to get deep into the weeds on this subject, but it was an amendment, and it was an amendment to SB 492. I strongly recommend people listen to the committee meeting.
Okay. Yes, Darren?
This is Commissioner Elmer. I just want to state for the record, I was very slightly involved in the session this year, and it was an eye-opening experience to see how fluid the whole process is, right? It was a mind-blowing exercise in government, and to ultimately see what happens, what doesn't happen, and the powers that are at play. Commissioner Droe brings up a really good point, but once again, we were behind the 8 ball timing-wise. We had a long list of wants, yet at the same time we had a very high level of public sentiment that was happier seeing us go away than get fixed, and we have to fix that before we're going to be able to do anything. So we need to continue to work up this want list. We need to get some money on the ground, doing some good, so that it's easy to find friends who will support us in 2 years to get that stuff done. And that's the unfortunate situation that we're in. But having been somewhat involved, that's the reality that we faced.
Very good. Okay.
Commissioner Drew.
Commissioner Drew.
So with this new allocation of funds from DMV, do we, I guess this might be a question to the DMV representatives, but do we now participate in all the title fee revenue as well as late fee revenue?
No.
We do not?
It all goes into one pot. So all of the...
For the record.
The 10 pots. Okay, for the record, Heather Hawkins Manch with the DMV. Like the different pots of money, like Dorian talked about, are broken out into the different account codes. You have your late fees, you have your title fees, out-of-state title fees, duplicate decal fees and things. Most of those are fees that the commission doesn't currently get a portion of. Those will all be portioned out now. Everything goes into one pot, and whatever overflows our expenses in the $150,000 comes to the commission. So everything is one pot of money now.
Commissioner Giroux, for the record, so title fee does get thrown in that pot because that's the biggest chunk of money. I mean,
Yeah, all of it
Pretty
is
aware of
included.
that.
Actually, the late fees are.
Late
Dory
fees.
raised me for the record. You will appreciate the late fees.
Commissioner Drew, for the record, beyond the title fees?
All fees are in one pot of
But
money.
late fees are pretty high.
Wow.
Yes, all fees are in one pot of money. We have a list of, Doreen has a list of the fees that
Yeah, Commissioner Elmore, the late fees and the titling fees fulfill the $150,000 requirement just in the off of the
pretty much have.
the DMV expense report. I mean, late fees was 92 grand alone. Title fees is 144. So,
What about just based on last year's income?
Okay. Very good.
But
Thank you for that. Any comments down there in Las Vegas? Any further comments?
The request to, Commissioner Jackson, the request to continue this item for next month.
Yeah, got it. Very well. Public comment? Any public comment in Carson City? Any public comment in Las Vegas? Okay. Hearing none, public comments closed. Our next scheduled meeting is still June 15th. And we got several things to have on there. The notice of adoption, elections, the grant guidelines, the Office of Criminal Justice matter. So we'll try and get you out a agenda early, mid next week. And hopefully you can send us whatever material you have in your various capacities that help us in that decision. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
seconded.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting's adjourned at 11:50 a.m. Thank you for everyone.
Yes. Yeah. Well.